behind. They watched what we do, they improved on it, and we stayed static. And you know why? Because if you ever suggest to a teachers union president that their members actually work a full year, they'll say, well, you have to double our salaries. I mean, you'll have to give us more benefits. I mean, these are folks who now, think about this. I'll give you one example of New Jersey. An average teacher who works for 30 years in New Jersey puts $162,000 over the 30 years into their pension and in payment for their health benefits. $162,000 over 30 years. That's about $5,000 a year, a little more. You know what the benefit they get out of that is? $2.4 million. $162,000 in, $2.4 million out. Please tell me what that does to improve the education of our kids in the classroom. Yet we're spending tons of money on that has nothing to do with it. Campbell Brown, who used to be a CNN anchor and now runs an education advocacy group up here in New Hampshire, had a group of us, invited all the presidential candidates, and a whole bunch of us came to talk about our vision for education in front of a group here in New Hampshire. She attempted to do the same thing in Iowa for the Democratic candidates for president. Do you know that every Democratic candidate declined the invitation and with no comment? Who made the only comment? Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, who said that they're not going because Campbell Brown is anti-education. And what we need to improve education in America is smaller class sizes, higher pay for teachers. Like, really? That's what we need? I mean, and what it tells you is that the Democratic Party is bought and paid for by the teachers union. The AFT has already endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. You don't even know if Hillary Clinton is going to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. They've already endorsed her. You can be guaranteed that that's bought and paid for. Here's what we need to do. We need to have a longer school day, and we need to have a longer school year. All right, we need to use technology much more effectively in the classroom. We're still teaching like it's the 19th century. There's a bunch of desks lined up, facing forward. There's a black or whiteboard. There's one person standing in front, and that's the way we teach. The same way we taught in the 1800s. Have we made a few advances since the 1800s? We don't utilize it. You know why? Because teachers would need to go for more training to do that. And God forbid, we're union people don't want them to have to do that, because that would take time away from winter break and summer break and fall break and Easter break and Christmas break and Thanksgiving break. I mean, it is a national disgrace. Parents get no choice in this education system. So if you're going to send a kid to a neighborhood school and that neighborhood school stinks, should you get choice to send your kids someplace else, regardless of how much money you have in the bank or how much you make? You bet. You're paying taxes to support an educational system. If the one in your neighborhood stinks, you should be able to choose to send your kid to a private school or a parochial school or a charter school. Yet the education establishment fights all of these things. Why? Because they have a monopoly on the system and they want to keep a monopoly. Well, monopolies are bad things, everybody, because they don't have to compete. They're not held accountable. And so I absolutely believe that the only way we're going to improve the educational system, K-12 in this country, is to make sure that we put those children's interests first. Longer school day, longer school year, greater use of technology, greater choice for parents about where to send their kids to school. And if you start having schools that compete on a regular basis, why is it different with our higher education system? Right? Everybody from around the world comes to our higher education system. They come to our colleges and universities. Why? Because our colleges and universities have to compete with each other. Right? You're not restricted about, so I'm from New Jersey. My son doesn't have to go to Rutgers. You're from New Hampshire. Your son or daughter doesn't have to go to UNH. They choose where they want to go. And those colleges have to compete. Right? We don't have that in the K-12 system. And if we had it, and people had to compete, and they knew their jobs were on the line, it becomes a whole different ballgame. So as president, those are the things that I would push for to make sure that our kids are put first. That's what we need to do, and stop worrying about the comfort of these adults. And in my state, remember this, membership in the teachers union is mandatory by state law. They have to pay $731 a year in dues, whether they want to or not. We have 200,000 members in New Jersey of the New Jersey Educational Association. That means they collect $140 million a year in dues, and they don't pay a nickel towards teacher salary, teacher pension, or teacher health care. That's $140 million slush fund for them to punish their enemies and reward their friends. And my mother was a member of the NJEA. She hated it. She's like, they take my money every year and they give it to political candidates that I disagree with. How's that fair? And by the way, if the teachers union rep was here, they go, well, Governor, you're wrong. You don't have to be a member of the union. You can opt out. Yes, you can. And if you opt out, you have to pay what's called a participation representation fee, which is 85% of the $731. So yeah, you can get 15% of your money back. You're not allowed to go to the meetings. But for those of you who are of the same era I am and remember the Eagles and that song Hotel California, right? Being in the teachers union is like being in the Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave, right? You can check out, but 85% of your money stays. So as you might be able to tell, I'm a little fired up about this issue. I've been fighting with these people for 6 years, and I will fight with them every day I'm president of the United States because I want to fight for our kids and not worry about them.